All the people have seen the sunrise and they're on the way back. So I'm a moment late for it. Good morning. How are you doing? I saw that gentleman before, a couple of days ago. Good morning. Hey, كيف حالك? See, the pilgrims have a program, so they go now to breakfast and they'll be leaving early to get ahead of the routine at the sites, get ahead of the crowds. There are a lot of people here, a lot of pilgrims. It seems to be rebounding. Well, of course, this is the best month as well, October, weather-wise. Still pretty hot, partly in September, the beginning of September. But October is the absolutely best month. This person here enjoying that moment, taking some memories in her camera. Somebody left a towel here. Interesting how people don't miss a towel. And then if you miss it, you don't go back for it. Oh. So we have a splendid and well-known words today in the readings. Absolutely marvelous about God's gifts and about trust and providence, and also about, implied definitely in the story of the man with the rich harvest, the will to secure one's own future by oneself. We all have to make an effort. Even this bird here, I think it's a cormorant with the wings out to gather heat. That's a sign that the weather is getting just a little colder. So the wings out like this to catch the sun as it comes up. It's actually not going below 20s yet at night time. And yesterday we were in the good mid-30s here. That's all Celsius for anybody still using Fahrenheit. And the man wants to tear down his barns to build bigger ones to secure his life. He has a nice nest egg apart and he can take off and just sit on the beach and enjoy himself for the rest of his life. That mentality is in a lot of people today. It's a pity because they kind of fold down and close down and fold in and fold up, and they think just because they have some stock and some investments that they don't need to do things. Other people, when they go to retirement, they have a great plan and perspective of good activities, travel, time for family, time to help people in need, life of relationships, but not just the idea of just laying out there, slouching in the couch and just enjoying. And even if people have worked hard all their lives to make a living for their family. Of course, to enjoy things, to travel, but to have a life, a spirit of purpose, of service, in many different ways. It can spending time with grandchildren, with one's own children, being helpful to neighbours, because there is a peak in our physical performance, but then there's all the riches of our soul in our lives. So this idea of this man who has his big harvest and wants just to enjoy himself, he's losing out. And if that were the purpose, then if one were to get sick quickly or to even die quickly, what would be the purpose of life? We had a very good friend here who was an extraordinarily generous person who served us wonderfully, all the medical needs of our volunteers and all of our own community. And he was here dancing with his whole family in a celebration, maybe still this year, or the end of last year, I think it was this year. And he had just turned 70, I think. And then he had deteriorated with cancer very quickly, and he passed away. And he barely was beginning his time of retirement, projected time of retirement. We don't control our lives. Our lives are a gift. And we're not the ones to secure our lives. That we do through faith, through trust. The readings tomorrow will continue about providence. And particularly in the spiritual life above all, we can't make it happen. It's all gift. Of course we have a role. But that's the reading today. One of the most powerful, well-known lines is, "By grace we are saved." By grace we are saved. It's a gift, the gift of faith. And even when we look, for example, at St. Teresa of Avila, that's one of the greatest mystics in Western Christianity. And she lived a mediocre life for a while, and in a moment of contemplation, she received that grace to climb, to grow to a whole new level of spiritual intensity and commitment. Grace, the free gift of God. Naturally, there's also a little piece that we have there, because we can reject grace or we can accept grace. Our heart can be disposed toward grace. If we're just into indulgence all the time, then our spirit is numbed and can't really be open to grace. But also the opening itself is also a work of grace. There's a whole interplay there. We're not just like a violin and the musician plays because we have some say in it. There's an acceptance, and that's particularly in the act of faith. That opens the door. The act of faith. And that act of faith is also a grace. When the theologians get down to it, that whole treatise on grace is a marvelous interplay of God and primarily His great gift. And our response. Let's look at the Incarnation. The Incarnation, without God there's no incarnation for sure, that the Word becomes flesh. But also the yes of that girl was necessary. Let it be done unto me according to your word. That consent. Paul is struck on his way to Damascus. What a grace. But then there's that inside of him that response, who are you? That listening. faith comes through the ear. Who are you? And now he's listening. He's finally listening. He's not just driving his own plan to control the future of his people with the sword, with imprisonments. He's opening his heart. And in all of our lives, there's a story of grace. Sometimes it's a struggle. Sometimes it's a resistance to grace. Sometimes it can go on for a long time. The grace of conversion, people have it in their conscience, and they know what they're doing isn't right. But sometimes people are very sluggish, and that moment comes then when finally they make that break. God, who is rich in mercy, because of the great love he had for us, even when we were dead in our transgressions. The link between sin and death is already there since Genesis. He brought us to life with Christ. By grace you have been saved, raised up with him, and seated us with him in the heavens. He wants to show the immeasurable riches of his grace in his kindness to us in Christ Jesus. For by grace you have been saved through faith. And this is not from you, it is the gift of God. It is not from works, so no one may boast. For we are his handiwork, like the potter and the clay, and that the prophets use that image. The Lord made us, we belong to him, Psalm 100. His we are, his people. Enter his gates with thanksgiving. Give thanks to him and bless his name. The Lord made us, we belong to him. We are his. And he has given himself to us. Sometimes there are fights over inheritance. What belongs to me, what belongs to you? Like this rich man that comes now. Tell my brother to give me my share of my inheritance. When things are put in perspective, a lot of suffering is relieved. A lot of tension. People, God bless you. See you later, alligators. Here are these beautiful flowers.